Good evening. Calling to order the Antioch Police Oversight Commission meeting at 6:32 p.m., Monday, September 15th. Can we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Kennedy,
Present.
Commissioner Lacioja, Commissioner Mitchell,
Present.
Commissioner Eloquachi, absent, Vice Chair Williams,
Present.
Chair Taylor,
Present.
and we have a quorum. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Yes. For the consent calendar, it's recommended that Antioch Police Oversight Commission approve the meeting minutes of August 18th, 2025. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Kennedy,
Aye.
Commissioner Lacioja, Commissioner Mitchell,
Aye.
Commissioner Eloquachi, absent, Vice Chair Williams,
Aye.
Chair Taylor.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. On to new business, Police Chief V. Hill will report out.
Good evening, Commission, City Manager, City Attorney, community. I'll just run through the slide deck. I think you all have it already. There's a clicker. Do we have a clicker, Ron? All right, spacebar, right? I got it. Sit down. Take a load off. I got it. Relax. All right. Good evening. So I'll kind of run top to bottom where we're at with the police department and run through the slides. We'll start with staffing first. Currently, we're allotted for 105 sworn. Of those 105 positions, 85 positions are filled. I think I continually talk about the fluctuation in the numbers as some of our long-term injuries come off the books, so that's why we're seeing the number fluctuate, and it'll continue to fluctuate through the end of the year. And since completing the PowerPoint, there's already been changes to the numbers, but the 85 number is still good. We have 2 people now on long-term injury leave and 1 on long-term military leave. Current patrol staffing right now is 1 lieutenant, 5 sergeants, 2 corporals, 42 patrol officers, and 4 CSOs. Oh, is there another screen? Oh. And then our investigations is currently staffed with 1 lieutenant, 1 sergeant, 9 investigators, and 1 working crime analyst. We have approached the district attorney's office about putting a detective on the county task force, and we're waiting to hear back. So essentially what that will do is it'll just give us some more resources here on our side of the county to help us work on some of our larger cases that require more personnel. Currently, our traffic division is staffed with 2 officers. Our community engagement team is 2 officers and 2 code enforcement officers. And our parking enforcement right now is 2 CSOs, with 1 of them being on modified duty. So I think a lot of people think, the police department, it's only police officers. What a lot of people don't realize is we have a fully staffed communications division, a records division, and then an animal services division that all falls under the police department. So for our communications division, we have a 1 manager, 4 leads, and 8 dispatchers, with 4 dispatcher vacancies right now. And our communication staff is responsible for a host of duties to include taking calls from fire, medical calls, CHP transfers, the sheriff's office, animal services, Angelo Quinto Community Response Team, parking enforcement. They're responsible for all of the computer-aided dispatcher entries. So anything tied to a call for service, anything tied to the courtyard, our dispatchers are manually typing all that in while they're working the phones and working the radio. And then they're responsible for all the after-hours public works notifications. And I'm sorry, you want me to go through the slides and then ask questions, or ask questions as we go? All right. Our records division, currently fully staffed. The only division fully staffed in the police department. So they have 1 manager, 2 leads, 7 full-time positions, and 4 part-time positions. And they're responsible for logging all of our warrants, all of our CLUTs and NCIC entries, adhering to the records retention for all of our documents that come through, police reports, attachments, paper evidence that comes in, processing citations, doing all of the missing person entries, putting them in the system and taking them out of the system, online report management, processing DA updates, crime lab data entry, managing public records requests, and there's a lot, covering the front counter and all of the non-emergency phone coverage that does not come into the comm center, the communication center. So if people have questions about reports, statuses on evidence, our record staff takes all those phone calls. Animal services. So there are currently 18 positions in that unit. There are 9 full-time employees, and those positions include an animal service manager, a supervisor, a full-time veterinarian, and animal control officers, and animal control staff. We have 3 full-time vacancies right now that are vacant, where we have people in the background process. So we are actively trying to hire our shelter manager, our remaining ACO, animal control officer, and one of our registered vet techs. So we're hoping to have them all through the process and onboarded, hopefully by the end of October. And then we have 5 part-time employees with 1 vacancy. And I actually think that number has changed because I believe there are 3 vacancies now. Our animal services division handles roughly 25 walk-ins every day, 8 spay or neuter surgeries, which are pretty intensive from what I understand, 10 to 20 calls for service for our animal control officers, so that's strays, loose animals, wild animals, dead animals. And at any time during any given week, we have between 80 and 160 animals in the shelter at one time. And a lot of people think dogs and cats. Yes, our animal shelter does dogs and cats. We do birds, we do lizards, we've had snakes, we've had goats, we've had chickens, we've had roosters. Did I mention we have snakes? And they're all adoptable, so if you need animals, come down and we'll help you out. So let's talk a little bit about hiring and recruiting. Currently, out of those staffing numbers that you saw, the 85 filled positions, 105 being the top number, we just completed a process for corporal and sergeant. I'm going to go a little bit out of order here because it'll make a little more sense. We are currently in the process of hiring lieutenants and captains. As soon as that process ends, or we fill the spots, which we're hoping to have filled by the end of October, we will reopen our corporal and sergeant to fill vacancies there. We are currently running, again, things have changed since I put the slide deck together in the last week and a half. We're currently running 2 academies right now. We just had 2 young men graduate last week from Alameda County's academy. Our next academy that graduate is in about 4 weeks, Contra Costa. We'll have 2 more people graduating from there. And then 1 more in the middle of December will graduate from Alameda County's academy. We do have open recruitments right now for all of our positions that are vacant at the police department. At our last testing, we had close to 100 people show up. We were just provided a list from HR, so we are working our way through the list to see if there are any viable candidates who can move on in the process. Open process also exists right now for dispatcher and the variety of animal service positions that are open right now. statistics. So obviously, we ran the year-to-date numbers. So all the numbers that you're going to see in the next couple slides for statistics are from January 1st till the end of July. So thus far, calls for service for this year, compared to last year, the comparisons on the board were a little bit higher. We'll kind of wait and see as we get into the end of the year if that number changes at all, drops or raises. And then those are our calls for service. Same thing, year-to-date, January 1 through the end of June for the Angelo Quinto Community Response Team. So just to clarify on the crimes against persons and the crime versus property, these are done to reflect NIBR's reporting, because a lot of people ask, hey, how come robbery's down there as a property crime? When we report it to NIBR's, that's how it's categorized. So for consistency purposes, we keep it that way across all platforms. We are with the exception, and I'm not going to say the word because I don't want bad mojo, the first column on the top, we are trending where everyone else is in the Bay Area on our side of the county in terms of crime. We do have an increase in aggravated assaults and our rapes. We have seen a spike in sexual assaults related to, oh man, now I just lost my train of thought. When you give someone pills, drugging. What'd you say? Similar to date rape, and then the increase in the social media platforms, the dating sites. And our aggravated assaults are up. We have seen a spike in domestic violence assaults. But other than that, we're trending downward in every other category. And there's a host of different reasons why we believe we're trending downward. Additional staffing, more detectives, relationships tied to our PSP commitment, and utilizing outside resources to help us work cases, get a measure of accountability, file charges, and then, of course, the addition of recent law changes this year, which are helping recategorize crimes and how they're charged. Our arrest numbers are up for the same reason, while juvenile arrests are down. Working with the county and juvenile hall, trying to find other programming to help young people find different avenues and pathways. I always spend a lot of time on the ShotSpotter statistics. Is everyone familiar with how ShotSpotter works? So the top category are the alerts. Anytime the system recognizes gunfire, potential gunfire, it registers an alert. ShotSpotter incidences are the incident tied to the alert. And I think this is where some of the confusion is. Of the 400 ShotSpotter alerts for 24 and the 313 for 25, some of those alerts can be at the same location. That's why the number in the incident categories are different, because multiple activations can result in one incident, and we see that a lot. Our ShotSpotter cases, these are when officers go out to a ShotSpotter incident and they're able to confirm a shooting happened. Non-fatal shootings are the shootings where somebody was shot and not hurt and not killed. And then shooting assaults would be the assaults where a house is shot up or someone is shot at and missed. So just a couple of things on the DOJ updates. The California DOJ, we're still in the patterns and practice investigation stages. There's no timeline of completion for this. Cal DOJ is participating in our policy meetings, and they have for the last couple of months. We do meet monthly with the Cal DOJ team to talk about where we're at, what we're doing, and the changes that we're making in the police department. Thus far, since the investigation started just over 2 years ago, we've received 2 subpoenas and have filled all the requests tied to those subpoenas. Slight anticipation that there might be a 3rd subpoena, but I think it's still too early to tell. We haven't heard anything, and again, we meet month by month, and they kind of tell us when we're getting close if something's coming our way or not. In terms of the U.S. DOJ agreement, we're moving forward in several different areas. Mr. Sapal will provide an update as soon as I'm done on where we're at with our US DOJ agreement. So just briefly to talk about our negotiated settlement, we are in the process of negotiating different aspects of the settlement right now with the city's team, the city's contracted attorney, and the other side's attorney. We do have a meeting this Thursday where we hope to move forward in the process. We're continually working and moving the process forward and meeting regularly, not only with the city, but with all of the attorneys involved. And I think what's most important to remember is that we all stay on the same page and we're putting out the most accurate information and we're not trying to guess or make assumptions because all of the attorneys are paying attention to what's being said in this meeting and what's being said in our city council meetings. And we don't want that to deter or slow down the work at all because we do have a lot of positive momentum in that arena right now. So I gave an update on the PSP partnership earlier this year. As many of you know, some of you were at the closeout meeting. We just ended our 4-year partnership. The partnership ends at the end of this month. It did give us access to local, state, and federal partnerships to help us in different areas throughout the police department in terms of investigations, getting cases filed. But I think the biggest thing it gave us were assessments. And we received 5 assessments over the 4 years, with a majority of them coming in the last 2 years, to include our non-fatal shooting reviews, technology, crime analysis, community engagement, and strategic planning. We've been able to utilize most, if not all, of the aspects of every assessment we have received and been able to turn it into real-time actionable items within the police department. We are rounding out the end of the partnership. They are assisting us with a TTA in hiring and recruiting practices, trying to help us ascertain a real-time crime center that will be regional to our side of the county, and helping out with the community survey. APOC, so we went over the training plan a few weeks ago. You guys have been actively participating in the policy review. We're getting you more and more involved in our department training and community engagement. Several of you have done ride-alongs and dispatch sit-alongs, and we plan to continue involving you all in different aspects of the police department training and just our day-to-day operations to get you more familiar with what's going on in the police department. I think there was a question over the weekend. Yes, the use of force simulator is up and working. So as soon as we can get some training dates set up, we'll do some case law review, some policy review, and then we'll put you guys in the simulator and give you a little training. Just a quick update on the substation. We had a council meeting earlier today where we talked about the substation and where we're at. We are entertaining getting some space back in the community center on Lone Tree. I got to stop calling it the water park because it confuses people. We used to have a substation in there. It's already outfitted with a temporary holding facility, lockers to book evidence, and workstations. With the city shifting around some of the departments and moving some of the personnel around, it's just a matter of trying to get out there next week with a representative from Public Works, see what the space looks like, and see what we can do to get it up and running so the officers can utilize it again, to handle calls, to reach out to the community, and to do follow-up on the south side of town. As far as the Sycamore substation goes, we are still trying to work out some of the logistics for some of the upgrades and that need to happen inside the building before we can move in there, and I'm hoping we'll have an update on that by the end of the month. So on the horizon, we're going to keep moving forward with all of our community engagement pieces within the police department, partnering with our AUSD. We just had a pretty good meeting with them Friday, talking about what else we can do in the schools to help out, finding different ways to partner with them in the schools throughout the city, continuing with our community forums, continually doing the neighborhood cleanups. Our neighborhood watch groups are becoming more active. I think I talked about National Night Out in the council meeting last week. This is the highest number of participant groups we've had in the almost 6 years that I've been here. We are in the process of trying to put together a PAL skating event at Paradise Skate. So if you guys have roller skates, we'll be inviting you out to come and skate. For us, the end of the year is a very busy time of year because we run consecutive our holiday and toy food drives, which garners a lot of participation, helping out a lot of the families in the community. And we just wrapped up our backpack giveaway as we moved into the back to school, and we're able to help out a lot of students at several different schools within the city of Antioch. Questions?
Start with Commissioner Kennedy and then just go straight down the line.
Thank you very much. So just, let's see here. So just as a point of clarification, because I know I've been confused about this. So when you talk about the community engagement team, that is separate than the group with Sergeant Fashner, Officer Amiri. That is considered compliance, correct?
Fashner and Amiri are compliance, yes.
Okay.
The set is different.
Okay. Just have to wrap my head around that. And then public records requests for the police department are handled completely separate than any other public records requests within the city?
Depending on what the request is, yes.
Okay. As we look at the numbers that are down, but yet we've got higher calls for service this year, do we have an understanding of what has led to that?
A couple of things kind of contribute to that uptick in calls for service, and keep in mind, we're only at the 6-month mark. Typically, in the summertime, we see a spike in certain areas across the police department. Then we finish off the year and go into a kind of a lull. When the weather changes, everyone's back to school and to work. So that's why I kind of said when I was going through the numbers, let's wait and see how the year finishes to see if we even out at all. I think at the 6-month mark, especially going through July, it's kind of very early to tell. Typically for us, June, July are our busiest months. So obviously we see an uptick in calls for service. There's a host of reasons why that happens. School is out, people are on vacation, more people are at home during the daytime, on viewing more things, reporting more things.
Okay, and then one of the things that I'm just curious about with the recategorization of some of these numbers, if you will, and the drops that we're seeing in a lot of these categories, I assume we'll be prepared that if any of that starts to settle out once that recategorization has sort of settled in, that we're able to explain to people it's not as bad as it looks?
Yes, and most of that is there. Some of that we are in year 2 of the recategorization for NIBRS. We started before we had to in our NIBRS reporting, so we were already ahead of a majority of the cities in California and across the United States in terms of reporting. We opted to do it right off the bat. So hopefully by the end of this year into next year, we'll kind of see what those evened out numbers look like, and we'll be able to compare it to the previous year. Because we have more than 1 year of NIBRS reporting.
Great, thank you. As far as Cal DOJ, when you talk about the fact that they're sitting in on a lot of our meetings right now, do we have any sort of sense that as they're watching the progress that we're making in our work with the DOJ and the requirements that we have to meet and that we are in the process of meeting, do we have a sense that perhaps they're going to say, y'all are good? Or that, there might be minimal changes that they ask for?
We have no sense at all. They keep their cards very close to their chest when they participate in these meetings. I know a lot of the questions have been, what is the timeline? What is the timeline? When you're dealing with the Cal DOJ, you're on their timeline and only their timeline. And if I could offer any sense of a potential timeline, I won't name any city in particular, but there's a certain city in Southern California. It took them just under 6 years of investigating to get next steps for them. So we are about 2.5 years in. We kind of go back and forth on whether there's going to be a third subpoena or not. But again, we have no They give us no warning or no, we just get the subpoena. Hey, here it is.
Surprise. And so when you talk about subpoenas, and I understand the confidentiality aspect of that, so are these subpoenas specific to individual cases or subpoenas based on some of the things that have already occurred?
So,
Or can you simply not answer that question?
I apologize. We cannot discuss the content of the subpoenas at all.
Okay, yeah, no, I wasn't, it was more just kind of trying to get a sense of the arena as opposed to specific subject matter. So when we talk about the hearing scheduled for September 18th, and is this related to Cal DOJ or to the federal?
I will also, it is related to currently pending litigation that the city has. We cannot make any statement beyond that.
Okay, but my question came from the fact that we have a slide titled negotiated settlement, and so I was just trying to get clarification if this was tied to the DOJ agreement or whether this was something separate. And again,
It is-
not a specific case.
It is separate from the US DOJ agreement. It's based off of pending or current litigation that the city is involved in. But it is.
That's independent from both, basically.
It is not litigation with the US Department of Justice or with the California Department of Justice.
Got it. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin.
I'm good, thank you. Very much, thank you.
you're welcome.
Commissioner Lacey Williams?
Thank you, Chief.
You're welcome.
I just had a few questions. So you mentioned that there will be some, you guys were hiring lieutenants and sergeants. Would those be in-house promotions or outside hires?
So right now, sergeants and corporals are not open. The process we just completed for lieutenants and captains, it's both, inside and outside.
Okay. And then were the 2 new hires that were just sworn in, was that a part of the 42 patrols count, or does that make it now 44 patrols?
We don't count them in that number because they didn't graduate the academy yet. But when they get off training, they will be in that 42 number.
They will be, so it's not going to be 40?
It'll be 44.
Okay. And then you mentioned here that there was an increase in rape, aggravated assault, where you mentioned being drugged?
Yes.
And that was, you said there was a high traffic of social media dating apps?
The social media sites, the hookup sites.
So that's been reported, from the survivors, they reported that
Correct.
this is what happened. Would it be possible to maybe put a PSA out, just to be mindful that this has been happening in our city? Just, take all the precautions you can when you're out on a date with someone you don't know. Watch your drink. Just would the police department have a way to words?
We could work on crafting some messaging to put out, yes.
Okay. Thank you. And then I saw that the total arrest number was 1,015, which doesn't quite, add up to the number of crimes, the increasing crimes. So are these folks still at large who committed these crimes, or is it just the cases kind of went, I don't want to say dead, but dead?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, so there's the total of, I guess, if you look at crimes against property, robbery, there's 82 this year, burglary, 186. So the total of folks arrested was 1,015, auto theft 648, and then offenses against property 1,756. So I'm just saying, are these at large suspects, or these people weren't obviously caught?
So the arrest numbers, keep in mind those arrest numbers are totals for the whole department. They could be arrests related to cases that aren't ours, warrants that are not ours, incidents that happened somewhere else and they just happen to get arrested here.
Okay.
So 1015 number is not indicative of the 1756 number or the 418 number. It's just total arrests.
Thank
So yes, anyone not in that category would be considered outstanding or unknown.
Okay. Yeah, I just think that would be good for the public to know, because I knew that was probably the case, but, you know, just looking at this, you would think, oh, they're not arresting enough people that are committing crimes, right? Or because the numbers are like total more than the actual arrest count. So I think that's all for me. Thank you. But yeah, you guys are doing great. Thanks.
Thanks.
Very interesting statistics as far as like the calls for service as compared to last year.
Sir, is your mic on? It's hard to hear you.
I think so. Sorry. Just
There we go.
Get my face in there.
They're giving me the eye over there, so.
Okay. So just noticed the calls are up like 10% from last year, same period. And do you think that's maybe just the public's being a little more aware? I know you guys have been out pounding, you know, the neighborhood watch, that sort of stuff. And I've actually talked to people that are a little apathetic about calling for service because of past not having staffing and reacting to those things. Do you think that that uptick is, I mean, because crime statistics seem to be down somewhat, do you think that that's just a little more public awareness and that sort of stuff?
It could, yes, I think it's a contributing factor. I also think the increase in people moving into the city, especially the southeast end of town, contributes to that number too. We're seeing, I am seeing in particular an increase in calls on the southeast side of town, especially since they opened the Laurel overcrossing in the neighborhoods right over there. So yes, I think that is a contributing factor as well.
And then lastly, just, I know city council, it was brought up about vehicle, tows and, delinquent registrations and wrecked vehicles. It seems like it's not being processed as it used to be as far as aggressively, or is that a staffing issue? Or I know you said one of the CSOs is on leave right now.
Yeah, so tracking the first part of the year when both the CSOs were assigned to traffic, they were doing statistically the same thing that SB Plus was doing same time frame last year. So with one of the CSOs being light duty, it has impacted the unit. We're hoping to supplement that now with part-time staff and transferring another CSO over there possibly.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Welcome.
Go ahead.
Just on that note, 1 second. There was how many traffic officers now?
2.
2. So,
Hoping to add 1 more before the end of summer.
okay, and I'm trying to think, where would those traffic cops best be suited in the city? Like positioned, like the area that they would patrol?
So they typically work off of the traffic surveys and then traffic complaints.
Okay. Because I know a few streets out here where we need some traffic cops, so maybe we can talk offline about
Shoot me an email.
Yes, thank you.
Just briefly wanted to ask regarding the question that Commissioner Williams asked in regards to the totals. If a person committed multiple crimes at once, is it totaled the same? Like, for instance, a robbery and a homicide?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch the last part.
Like a robbery and a homicide, is it totaled separately or just the higher charge?
The NIBR's reporting breaks them down by crime type. So yes, they would be separate.
Okay, so that could also attribute to the number being lower. Okay. And then the Angelo Quinto Crisis Response Team numbers dropped. Yes, they are here. Shout out to y'all for being here. Is there any reason why the numbers have decreased? Is it the calls that are coming in for them particularly, or the calls that are being dispatched to them?
You all might not recall a couple of months ago, they went from 24-hour service to 12-hour day service.
Oh, that makes sense. I didn't remember that. Okay, so the decrease is because of their work hours.
Right, and once we get through the calendar year, we'll look at a month-by-month comparison and be able to confirm that's what happened. I typically like to get a full year's worth of data to do comparisons. So then we can identify trends, look at spikes, and kind of see what the day-to-day ops looks like before saying too early, hey, it could be this, or hey, it could be that. But yeah, as we get into the end of the year, we'll be able to do a year-to-date, same time frame comparison to last year, and see if in fact that is what it is. But the early suggestion is it is because they went from 24/7 to 12/7.
So in reality, they're doing pretty good.
They are.
All right, thank you. That was my question.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Just one last question about the question I asked previously about the dating apps. Is there a specific list that you found that this was happening more on this particular app or that particular app?
Ooh, you're asking the wrong person. I'd have to ask our analyst.
Okay, well, I mean, thank you. Yeah, if we could get that information, just so we can like kind of craft it into, if you choose to go creating a PSA about this, just raising the awareness that this is happening. Because I don't think a lot of folks would think like that would happen, but yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a quick question, because this just came to my mind as I was sitting here, and even though I said I didn't have any comments or questions, but where does human trafficking fall into this category? Is there any particular category for human trafficking here in the city of Antioch? And then also I wanted to ask, do you know if it was possible to break each crime statistics down by zone? I think it's very important that we know that, what zone, because we no longer refer to it as District 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5. But if we could break it down by zone, I believe that would be very helpful.
Yes, we are also, thank you very much for the question. Yes, it is possible to break it down by zone. We are currently getting ready to roll out RIMS community, where it breaks down the crime class by zones. We saw a brief snapshot of it this morning in our staff meeting. Hopefully in the very near future, we'll roll it out so everyone can have, so everyone will be able to assess it and see what it looks like in their neighborhoods by crime type. It is just a matter of having our analyst redo some of the numbers and break it down. I will say I only have one analyst right now, and she's doing everything for the entire police department. But it is something that can be done by beat. When we roll out the Citizen RIMS, it'll be a lot easier to do. RIMS is our record management system that tracks all of this. It's an automated system. We just rolled it out at the end of last year. So a lot of this stuff is now just coming online after we've rolled out the initial CAD, computer-aided dispatch, and the report management system side of it. So there's a couple more things that are going to follow before we roll out the Citizen RIMS, community RIMS portion of it.
Will that be public? Would it be on?
It is
on the
public.
web?
It will be public, yes.
Thank you.
And then depending on the human trafficking, depending on how it gets handled, who handles it, typically a lot of the human trafficking stuff, the feds run with. So we would have to data mine the data out from our existing reports to pull those exact numbers. But we utilize the feds a lot in our human trafficking cases because it's human trafficking. It doesn't originate or always end in the city of Antioch, and it's tied to other cities. So taking a regional approach using our partners to help us get more out of an investigation, more resources, and better prosecution really helps. You're welcome.
I'm sorry to keep you up here. So the juvenile arrests, let's say that was a 20% decrease in that. So were there any mitigating factors that you guys realized, like how to work with juveniles? Because before it was, there was 56 arrests in 2024. Or was it just like there was less arrests because there was less arrests, or is there like programs that have been helping troubled youth or anything like that?
I would have to look. I know you all received a presentation from Mr. Marchetti about REACH and what REACH does for the youth. He also works very closely with Juvenile Hall. It could just be a matter of where this person was when they were arrested in this juvenile system, if they're in there at all, if diversion or some other resource was available to them to avoid them getting arrested. Without pulling the data apart, we'd have to look.
That's a broad question, but
Yeah.
thank you. I just wanted to raise it because I know that, you know, we have to address some of the issues with our youth and some things that have been happening at the schools. I want to get into details, but I'm just trying to.
I was in that meeting Friday.
Yeah, yeah. I would love to hear what came out of it at some point, if that once that's made public, or you know, so, or if you guys have any updates that you can speak to at the moment.
It's a work in progress.
Work in progress. Okay, thank you, Chief.
I don't want to speak on the behalf of AUSD or the other people who were at that meeting.
Makes sense. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Okay, cool, thank you. And then for the First Amendment right to protest presentation?
Yes, Captain Matt Cook will give that presentation.
Thank you.
All right. Good evening, commissioners, community, city manager, city attorney. Thank you for the opportunity to speak about our department's approach to First Amendment assemblies and demonstrations. The Antioch Police Department is committed to uphold and respect the rights of individuals to peaceably assemble and exercise their rights to free speech. Antioch Policy 412 outlines the police department's responsibilities and response for a host of scenarios. It's not only the role of the police department to interfere with, it is not the role of the police department to interfere with, harass, or intimidate those who are lawfully exercising their rights. Our focus is to maintain neutral while preserving peace, protecting life, and preventing the destruction of property. We recognize that protests can involve an array of behaviors, from lawful expression to acts of civil disobedience, and in some cases, rioting. For that reason, officers are trained to respond with strategies that are measured, adaptable, and appropriate to the circumstances. Our response differs depending on whether the event is planned or unplanned. We try to reach out to organizers and leaders to assist in maintaining peace and ensuring people are allowed to exercise their rights. Coordination and communication is the key to ensuring successful events and demonstrations. In unplanned or spontaneous gatherings, the first responding officer conducts an immediate assessment, considering the size of the group, its purpose, or any signs of unlawful activity, and quickly communicate that to the supervisor so we can establish a command under incident command system. For planned events, we prepare a comprehensive operational plan. These include command roles, staffing, equipment needs, coordination with emergency medical services, transportation, detention plans, and clear protocols for media relations and communication with organizers. The most recent example of a planned protest in Antioch was on No King's Day. Our staff met and spoke with the organizers prior to this event, and the department maintained communication throughout. With open dialogue and cooperation from both parties, the protest was peaceful, and all involved were able to exercise their First Amendment rights safely and respectfully. Dispersal orders and the use of force are tightly regulated under both policy and California law. Dispersal is considered when public safety is jeopardized, and orders must be delivered in a standardized way. They have to be clearly given, audibly, often in multiple languages, and with time given for the folks to disperse. And failure to do so on this is all covered under our Penal Code 409, which is a misdemeanor. And again, it's all spelled out exactly what the language is in Policy 412. Use of force, including control devices or chemical agents, are authorized when objectively reasonable and always directed at individuals engaged in unlawful or violent acts, and never indiscriminately at a crowd. Tear gas, for example, may only be authorized by the on-scene incident commander, and only when other methods have failed. To my knowledge, the city of Antioch has not had any protests that have risen to that level where tear gas or kinetic energy projectiles have had to be used. Arrests, especially mass arrests, are the last resort and must include safeguards for probable cause, medical care, legal access, and accountability. The police department has held several trainings over the past few years, specifically addressing First Amendment rights and protest response. These sessions have reinforced the importance of de-escalation, communication, and proportional response, ensuring that our officers remain well prepared to handle these situations lawfully, professionally. In addition, our officers receive periodic formal training on crowd control dynamics, incident management, and the lawful use of force, including the specific requirements for the use of chemical agents and/or kinetic projectiles. We also prioritize joint training with our mutual aid partners whenever possible. Members who are on the county response team train quarterly with the county team in a variety of responses and tactics. And I presented on this back on, I think it was May 5th, as far as it relates to mutual aid. So a lot of that is covered there. So transparency and accountability are critical parts of our approach. Media representatives are entitled to access under state law, and the department should keep channels of communication with the public open during these incidents. After the incident, comprehensive documentation would be completed, and after-action reports would be produced to review what went well, what challenges arose, where improvements and/or training opportunities exist. Additionally, whenever chemical agents or projectiles are deployed, a public summary must be published within 60 days, reinforcing our commitment to transparency. In closing, our goal is to safeguard constitutional rights while ensuring public safety. By following clear policy, emphasizing training, including the recent briefings on First Amendment protections, and commitment to transparency, we work to manage public assemblies in ways that honor community expectations and builds community trust.
Question?
Great. I don't have any questions, but I did want to say congratulations again on your promotion.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
I'll say congratulations, and I do have just a couple quick questions. So
Okay.
I
Thank
think your point about the No Kings protest was great, great example, and I think that APD did a good job with that group. I know we saw the gathering up at Lone Tree Plaza, I believe, or by the old AMC Theater. You know, they came down the McCollum Trail as opposed to on the sidewalks. They were stopping at stoplights, et cetera. In the situations where you have the opportunity to speak to people ahead of time, it's clear that you talk to them about what their rights are and what their rights aren't in some of these situations. Even if you have unplanned protests, does the officer that's first on scene have a conversation with somebody that they can identify as an organizer as part of their assessment?
Yeah, it's identifying who the organizer is, relaying that communication up to the supervisor so they can make the informed decisions on response, equipment, and needs of that sort. Either the first responding officer or responding supervisor would be the one to make contact with the organizer.
And then, is there a distinction, or can you talk a little bit about the distinction between action that takes place on public versus private property?
So, again, it kind of all varies. So, like shopping centers where things are open to the public, people have the right to be there, give free speech under the First Amendment, whether it's private or on public. Oftentimes you see, like picketing and things like that, or Kaiser, the hospitals will have their picketing. Again, as long as they're not blocking the ingress or egress or the ability to still establish and run a business, Those are things that are often communicated and relayed, and I think almost every single time the organizers communicate that with their group, and they're very respectful of that, and we let them continue on with their free speech.
Great, thank you. And then, so people are aware they can't block driveways, they can't block entrances to buildings, and there are those certain circumstances, I believe, where a property owner can ask someone to leave, and then they can sign a no trespassing order that PD then has to fulfill, correct?
Correct. I think it all kind of comes down again to where the private property is, if it's open to the public or not. There's some gray area in there.
Well, my questions are coming from personal experience
Sure.
in the last year and a half, and some fine lines sometimes between a public building but private office space, for example.
Right.
So, and it's more not, it's not my intention to put you on the spot.
Sure.
It's really more about putting the information out into the public arena.
Absolutely.
So that folks do understand that there are certain responsibilities that you all will have to fulfill based on certain parameters with a property owner, especially inside certain buildings.
Correct. And as it's even outlined in the policy, the police department does their best to avoid making the arrest as much as possible, affording the citizen the right to free speech. And it's about educating, and more times than not, we get the compliance through education.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And can we get your presentation via email?
I don't see why not.
Okay, thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
Once again, congratulations. And
Thank you.
I'm so happy to be a part of that swearing-in ceremony. I just have a quick question. Lately there's been a increase in protesters stopping traffic, for example, on the Bay Bridge, and other places throughout this nation. What is the procedures if that were to happen here in the city of Antioch? And I pray and hope that it never does, but
Same here.
okay. But can you explain how APD would handle that situation?
Sure. I mean, depending on the size, it comes down to vehicle code laws. As far as that would go, kind of goes into the civil disobedience for minor criminal acts. We would allow them potentially to get their free speech, asking them to leave, but depending on the nature of things, it's ultimately we want it to, move them off to the side and not create a traffic hazard. It's totality of the circumstances kind of dictates what actions would be taken.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, just finally have a question. So, we do live in a very tense society at the moment, and as you were talking about the First Amendment and our free speech and things like that, our rights to protest. Now, we didn't really talk about counter-protesters, because I've been in protests sometimes where we do get an opposition to what the actual demonstration is about. And so is there a way to determine, because you're saying that you would connect with an organizer on that event, be in communication, and the possibility is that the opposition may come in later into the picture, but how do we hold them accountable for potentially starting trouble or making the peaceful protest not so peaceful? Is there ways that we, hold that person accountable if they're identified, if the organizer is saying this person X, Y, Z, or these people X, Y, and Z did this, and that's why this protest got out of control?
Yeah, kind of along the same approach, right? Getting ahead and making contact with those individuals, the lead organizers, opposing versus not, and really emphasizing the importance of the right to free speech and letting everyone have the opportunity to do that. Equal persons have their right to speech, but I think it's a matter of just being level-headed and having those conversations with the organizers. Maybe, after one protest and the other one come on, just kind of work it out peacefully. I know we've encountered that protest similar to that in front of the police department a few years back, where similar things, and again, where the police department reached out to both sides, asking for, you know, the peacefulness of it and allowing each group to have their voice.
Okay. Yeah, and I know, you know, because things can change in the environment, you know, that we're in, but is there a way that the police department would say, okay, I know these folks are not going to cause a ruckus. Would that opposition side somewhat be told to leave? But there's that whole, that's
Not necessarily.
yeah, if they like start to attack people or
Again, it kind of comes down to the civil disobedience and where you're at in the totality of the event. It would dictate what direction the police response would be.
right. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I have no question.
Yes.
Everybody good? All right, is there any public comment? Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
We do not have any public comments on this. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Cool. Go ahead. Your mic is not on.
So further discussion on the first, I wanted to do like a follow-up on the crime analysis about the drugging and maybe we can discuss like looking at data of like high traffic areas where it's like dangerous, where people are speeding out of control or just like not obeying traffic laws, and how do we mitigate some of those issues since we only have potentially three traffic officers, and then wanted to hear more about was it the RIMS committee? RIMS?
Record management system.
Yeah. Okay, anybody had any discussion?
I did note the things that you brought up. So following up later for the update regarding the messaging or PSA regarding the increase of sexual assaults with drugging involved. And then also to follow up on the community breakdown by zone that Commissioner Lacey Oha brought forth. And then I noted to follow up on the juvenile data that was mentioned as well, because decreases are good. We don't want to put kids in jail, for the most part. Anything else, discussion-wise? All right, cool, thank you. We can move forward to 4-2, the United States Department of Justice Settlement Agreement by Annual Update Presentation.
So typically they put both slides on the screen page. Yeah, so just X out of there.
Oh, yeah, I was.
Sorry about the technical difficulties. Good evening, Commissioners, City Manager, City Attorney, Police Chief, City Staff, and community. My name is Majid Sapal, and today I'm going to provide you with an update on the Memorandum of Agreement between the U.S. Department of Justice, the City of Antioch, and the Antioch Police Department. So, just a little bit of background. On July 2nd of this year, the city entered into an agreement with the Department of Justice. And as part of that, there are numerous conditions that have to be met. This agreement runs for 3 to 5 years, the goal being 3 years, to the point where the department is in compliance. And my job as a consultant is to essentially monitor progress report back to the Department of Justice in terms of where we are in terms of compliance with all of these requirements. And it can be no compliance to partial compliance to substantial compliance. The goal is to get to substantial compliance. One of the nice things about this agreement is it isn't just a requirement to monitor progress, but it does allow some engagement and providing recommendations and facilitating discussion so that I can work with the department to help them get to these milestones. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to give you a high-level overview on where we are at this point with numerous parts of the agreement. I do want to point out that the agreement was written in such a way that when it was signed on January 2nd of this year, that many of these conditions were either partial compliance had to be done or we had to be moving in a certain direction. And then some of the deadlines were predicated on the consultant coming on board. And that took a little bit longer than originally planned. And as a consequence, some of these dates have been moved. So I know there was some concern about the department not being in compliance and hitting certain milestones. The reality is that many of these tasks have been moved out to November. So we've got plenty of time. And I can say, even before going each one of these slides, that the department is making very good momentum. And a big part of that is the city is putting forth the resources to ensure that this succeeds. This isn't a situation where the agreement's been done and it's sort of, no one's really clear on who's doing what. There's been a very steady push to ensure that we're meeting those milestones, and it's nice to see. So one of these requirements has to do with policies, directives, and training. And these are sort of the core functions within a police department. You have to have good policies, you have to be able to provide direction, and then you have to train your folks on a regular basis. And right now, as the chief had mentioned, there is a committee that's working through the policies. There's about 18 to 19 policies that have been identified that tie directly into the agreement, and those have become the priority. And so the APOC ad hoc committee has been involved in that. We've got Cal DOJ sitting in. We have some of the experts from the police department, and I've been involved with that as well. And we're working through those. And some of those policies that are tied into this agreement have to do with the use of force, bias-based policing, discrimination, training, promotions, hiring, and all these things are tied into the agreement, and those policies become very relevant. So we're working through those, and I will say that it's been a very good discussion. I think part of the benefit of having the APOC ad hoc committee involved is you get a community perspective. And oftentimes these things are written more of a legal manner, and you sort of forget who it is you're trying to serve. And at the end of the day, these policies should be something that anyone can pick up and understand. They should make sense. So that's, I think, very beneficial for the community itself. One of the other aspects was to provide training to the police department on procedural justice and principal policing. And there's two components to this training. One is for the long term, there's a requirement that the training be certified through the International Association of Directors of Law Enforcement Training. And in the meantime, while that is being scheduled, the department had the opportunity to provide in-house training. And so that was done by Sergeant Price. Everyone has gone through an 8-hour course and did a really good job. It has to be interactive, so it has to be some engagement. And it was very impressive to see that based on the way the instruction was done and the dialogue back and forth, that I think folks walked out of there with a really good perspective. So that was good to see. Definitely a good starting point, and we just have to build on top of that. Hiring, backgrounds, and promotions. So this is another important aspect of trying to change the culture of an organization. Based on who you hire, it's who you promote, which usually is a reward for folks that are doing all right things, and the background process for when people are being hired. So there are some specific requirements in the agreement, and for the most part, in terms of the background checks, the department's been doing them and is doing them. We're probably going to refine that a little bit. For promotions, I sat in on the most recent testing process for lieutenant and captain positions, and there was an outside consultant that came in and ran that process, which is a good practice. And the caliber of the candidates that came through was very impressive. So I think that speaks volumes about how this department and the city carries itself, because you're attracting talent from the outside. And so it was a good, well-done process. There was a professional panel, which usually has folks that are in policing, and then there was a community panel with city staff. And so you kind of get the best of both in terms of trying to evaluate a candidate. So as part of the PSP that the department had been working on, there's a recruitment plan that's in progress. And so we should get some data back on that relatively soon, and we can use that to assist with refining the process so that's very, very clear for the department, clear to the community on these are what we're going to assess when you're getting promoted or getting hired. The agreement also specifies that for promotions, there's a whole host of criteria that we need to check. They've got to be a commitment to bias-free policing in terms of complaints and getting into trouble, making sure that you have a good track record. Do you make decisions ethically? Are you responsible? Are you community-oriented? So there's a whole host of aspects of the agreement that get factored into the decision-making. The one thing that I will say is for the time that I've been in the police department, one of the things that I've noticed, especially with the upper staff, is when they're making decisions, they're already factoring in the agreement. It's not like they're making decisions and then it's like, oh, wait a minute, we have to make sure that we're doing it in concert with the agreement. What they're doing is they're thinking about these ahead of time. And that's really important, because what that says is it's starting to get ingrained in the culture, right? It's just going to take time before it really permeates throughout the organization. Data collection and analysis. So I don't think I was clear the last time I did this presentation. The deadline was July 2nd. And what we had to have done is have a process in place for collecting data, demographic data. And that process is in place. It needs to be fine-tuned. There's a few things that we're going to need to work on in terms of being able to gather that information. But there is a process in place. The goal for the city manager is to hire a policy and a data analyst. And that recruitment is moving forward, because you'll have someone who can specifically work on gathering data and analyzing it, because it's not just about the agreement, it's about moving forward. You know, in the last presentation, you saw crime stats. Well, crime stats are important because they give you a high-level overview, and we can break them down into neighborhoods. That's even better. Well, there's data within the police department in terms of how they operate, who they contact, why they contact folks, what the outcomes are. Those are just as important, right? Oftentimes, these are used as early intervention indicators in the department to see where officers may be kind of going out of the lane and they need some corrective action. So from the standpoint of being able to gather data and consistently analyze it from now until the end of time, that's the goal. And so again, the city is making strides at putting the right resources together to make sure that gets accomplished. Complaints and misconduct. So this is a really important part of any police organization. It's having a process in place to investigate complaints of misconduct. And a part of that has to do with the Professional Standards Bureau, with their staffing. It outlines procedures in terms of how those investigations are done. They have to be tracked. You should be able to pull data to see where you're having issues, and then you can take corrective action. One of the most important aspects of this is it's a best practice to farm out your internal affairs cases, your administrative investigations about employees to outside entities. So you have investigators that don't have any tie to the city of Antioch, they haven't worked here, they don't know people, and it's a best practice to have them do those investigations, because there's a greater degree of impartiality. And the reality is that we always want to make sure that we're following process, and that the folks that are being investigated, they have rights, and we want to make sure that those are adhered to. And at the same time, we want to make sure that someone with experience and a separate lens can look at these and conduct an evaluation. And the department's been doing that for quite a while. So a majority of the cases that come in get farmed out to outside entities for investigation. So they're well ahead on that. We're going to work on some of the procedures, and I think it's always important to be transparent, not just with the community, but with your folks internally. There shouldn't be any surprises. They should know exactly what to expect, and so we'll kind of work through developing those procedures that are already in place, just to make sure that everyone's clear on what they are. The due date for that one is October 15th. So language access plan. In order to make sure we're serving the community for folks that have limited English proficiency, we need to put a plan in place to address that. And it comes in two parts. One is internally, and that's identifying employees that are bilingual, and the city already has a policy in place for that, a mechanism in place for that. The second part of that is for the community, right? It's making sure that there's procedures and guidelines in place so that employees can address folks that may have difficulty communicating. And in order to do that, you've got to be able to ask questions. You need to really have some empathy and compassion in trying to work through things, especially when you're dealing with something that's in crisis or a critical incident. And then you have to have some ability to communicate, right? So part of this plan is going to be to identify, whether it's through technology or through some other agency, to have access to folks that can translate and interpret for folks that we're coming into contact with. Very important. And the other part to this is that a lot of the information that's on the website for the police department, like making complaints, how do you do that? How do you commend an employee? How do you get services and information? Those should be in languages that are consistent with what we see here in the city of Antioch. And so that deadline is in November. That's going to require quite a bit of effort, but this isn't just a police department issue, it's a service issue for everyone in the city. And so I think we'll have quite a few hands in terms of working through this. Community engagement, probably one of the most important parts of this plan was making sure we have a good foundation of community engagement. That's who we serve. And one of the nice things about what the city and the department have done is they had 2 years to essentially select a community liaison officer. And that was done about 2 months ago. And so Officer Amiri was selected. He works with Sergeant Fashner. And it's a nice thing to see because just about everything that we do has some nexus to the community. So the sooner we can get folks in place to find different ways of connecting with the community, the better off we're all going to be. And so that's been done. We're way ahead in terms of having that taken care of. We had until January of 2027. That's already taken care of. The second aspect of this is having a community engagement plan. So we do have a draft plan in place. We've been working with the ad hoc committee. We're going to try to flesh that out and put some more detail into it, and then we'll have a plan for how we're going to interact with the community on a regular basis. And part of this is making sure there's capacity. If you do a dozen events or that's what you commit to every year, then you have to be able to do those. Right, so we want to make sure that that the plan is feasible and it's approachable, and is it really designed to serve all aspects of the community, right? Whether you're young or old or somewhere in the middle, irrespective of what part of town you come from, there should be some way to connect with those different representative communities. And so the fact that there's 2 folks that are already doing this, it's fantastic. One of the things that I appreciate is as I sit in the same cubicle as the community liaison officers and Sergeant Fashner, and one of the things they talk about on a regular basis is it's not what we've done, it's how do we continue to connect with different parts of our community in ways that we haven't done before. And they come up with some pretty interesting ideas. So I think that's going to work out very well. This chart, basically it's a timeline. What you'll notice is that for the end of 2025, there's quite a few things that need to be accomplished, and we're moving and there's momentum. And a lot of these things are tied into one another. It's a fairly complicated document. You can't really focus on one and nothing else. We're making small milestones with each one of these things, and they're all interrelated. And this is kind of an overview just from a graphical standpoint. When you look at some of the different sections of the agreement, we've already found a consultant, that would be me. We've had the non-discriminatory interim training that's been done, so we're in compliance there. With the permanent training, we're still working through that. There's some challenges in trying to find trainers on the West Coast that can deliver that kind of training, and it has to be interactive. So it can't just be some kind of a Zoom or a computer simulation. It's got to be interactive, and that's presenting a bit of a challenge, but we're working through that. We have partial compliance with the hiring, backgrounds, and promotional process. The work that's left for the most part is the recruitment plan, and as I mentioned, that public safety partnership from the federal government is assisting with that piece of it. And so we're not going to reinvent the wheel. We'll use what they have based on what they've gathered from their observations here in the city of Antioch. Data collection, as I mentioned, we've got partial compliance. We're not at the point where we have all the information that we need. We're getting there. There's a couple of interesting nuances, and some of them aren't necessarily tied to the agreement, but I think when you're in a position to gather more data, you're better off because you can make better decisions. So that's moving along. Complaints of misconduct. Right now, we're working through the complaint policy through the ad hoc committee through APOC, Cal DOJ, and internal representatives. And there's a chance we might have that finalized by Thursday. There's quite a few pieces to it, but we want to make sure that it's thorough and is very reflective of how we want to be transparent with the public in terms of how we investigate these things, how do we take complaints, ensuring that those folks that are being investigated, their rights are intact. And so it's a fairly comprehensive policy, and we're hopefully we'll work through that this week. The language access plan, that we've discussed it. There is a mechanism for identifying employees, so that part's done. But how we're going to push that out to the public and what kind of resources that's going to require is still part of the conversation, so we'll have to work towards that. And lastly, the community engagement plan, we're moving ahead with that because we've already got the community liaison officer in place. And the next part of it is just fleshing out how we're going to do this, right? We all have the same objective. It's just how do we turn that into action? And so that's what that plan will identify. So that leaves us with next steps. And we're within the first year of the agreement. We've still got to work on the long-term training. We want to complete the community engagement plan by November of 2025. We're moving along well with that. As I mentioned, the language access plan is something we need to work on. We want to collect data so that we can do quarterly disparity analysis with demographics in the city, because that's one way where we can tell whether we're disproportionately impacting certain demographics. And so we're working towards that. As I mentioned, the city's pushing forward with hiring a full-time data analyst to help with that because it's complicated and it's very important. We have to have metrics. Policy revisions that are being worked on, we have until November, but what we're going to do is as we identify these policies, what happens is the committee will review the policies, make recommendations, they'll come up with a final product, it'll go to the chief. If the chief wants to add things or wants to see some changes, it'll go back to the group for discussion. Once that's done, then it'll go to the city manager, the city attorney, and once everyone's signed off on it, it'll go to the Department of Justice. And once they approve it, then we can release the policy and make sure folks in the department have been trained on what the new policies are. So as those get completed, we'll be sending those out to the Department of Justice so we don't have to wait and send over 19 policies at the end of the year. One of the aspects of the agreement with misconduct investigations is certain types of investigations, specifically the use of force and discriminatory treatment, have to go to the Department of Justice within 10 days of being completed. And so, as I mentioned before, most of these complaints are investigated by outside parties that have a certain level of expertise and neutrality. And once those are complete, those will be sent to the Department of Justice. And this is just another way of ensuring that these cases are being given the level of attention that they deserve. A part of this also means that those cases go to the city manager and the city attorney. So there's multiple layers of review to make sure that we're doing these things the right way. And we have to do a self-assessment report for the police department that has to essentially every 180 days has to look at the agreement and assess themselves. Where are we? What have we done? And where do we need to go? So that draft is in process at the moment. Hopefully we can get that completed relatively quickly because there's no end date for that, but the sooner we can get it done and sent to the Department of Justice, the better off we'll be, because then we'll have an idea of what they want to see for these future reports. Ultimately, this agreement was put together for a couple of reasons. One, it was to change the culture of the department. It's to ensure that, that the department is fair, it's respectful, and it engages in bias-free policing. It's very important for everyone to understand that, you know, this is about making sure that we're not being selective about enforcement, and we're not engaged in non-enforcement based on protected characteristics, right? And in order to do that, we've got to hire the right people, we've got to promote the right people, we've got to have good policies, good training, and you have to have good direction from supervisors. And in a number of ways, that's what the agreement attempts to do. The last few slides, as I mentioned early on, you know, some cities don't necessarily make the investment into ensuring that this is successful. And what the city of Antioch has done is they've been forward-thinking and thought about this in advance. So they're going to have a compliance and professional standards unit. They're in the process of selecting a captain that will serve as the division unit leader of that group. Sergeant Fatchner is already assigned there. We have the community liaison officer, Officer Amiri. There'll be a data and statistical policy analyst that should be hired here relatively quickly. And we're supported by the assistant city attorney as well. And so there's a lot of expertise and a lot of experience with that group. And there's not going to be anything in this agreement that's going to be a surprise or a difficult challenge. It's just a matter of making sure we're all on the same page and we're all working in concert to get those things approved. And this agreement will terminate when the Department of Justice can confirm there's 2 years of sustained substantial compliance. So for each one of those different items, for 2 years, the department has to be able to show that they're in substantial compliance. I think one of the nice things about the way this is all working out is there's a couple different ways to change the culture of a department, but one is by hiring a lot of new folks, right, that they don't know anything other than what they're going to learn by coming into the city and to the department. And I will tell you that from the recruitment standpoint, you have a lot of folks that show up to test here for positions. And as I mentioned before, that speaks volumes about the agency and the city. So that's a good thing. And we just need to keep pushing forward to make sure we're getting good quality people and in the right places. And we'll make sure that this becomes part of the culture of the department. So as I mentioned before, this is very strongly focused on civil rights compliance. We want to make sure that we meet those timelines. We have measurables in place. Community engagement and accountability are two very important aspects of how this is going to work. And as we continue, we're going to keep monitoring and adjusting. And as I mentioned before, this is a team effort. And there's varying degrees of expertise, not just in the department, with the city. And working together is how we're going to keep momentum and make progress. And that is it in a nutshell for where we are now. And I'll be coming back to report again, probably every quarter, to provide updates. And I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you. Starting with Commissioner Kennedy.
Thank you very much, Manjeet. So the language access plan, and we talked about having bilingual officers utilizing members of the community. Do we have specific languages that we are targeting based on our population?
That's a good question. I haven't asked that question yet, but that's something we need to work through.
It's usually based on, in other cities that have settlement agreements or consent decrees, it goes by the American Community Survey, the top 5 to 10 languages.
Great, thank you. And then your reference was predominantly verbal. Are we then also going to be creating material in print to complement the same 5 identified languages and so on?
That would be the goal, absolutely.
Okay, great. And then just for clarification, and I know we spoke about this briefly at the ad hoc meeting last week, in our packet there and the memo from the city manager, there is a draft community engagement plan that lays things out by quarter. And I believe that the chair had planned for us to discuss that at our next meeting. In our ad hoc meeting last week, you indicated that that plan has been revised.
Not necessarily. So that document that you have is the strategy. It's not really the plan. It's an overall umbrella of different things that need to be done. And those are the areas that we really need help with from the ad hoc committee. Those are things we need help with from the commission. The plan itself is really the vehicle of how we're going to get there, but we have to leverage the expertise from the commission and those connections to make sure we're adequately reaching out. So when you look at the quarters on that document, you can put them in different order. They don't necessarily have to be done by certain timelines, but those are going to serve really as the foundation for everything that we do.
And thank you for that clarification. My question's not coming so much from the quarter and the order versus some of the strategies and how we perceive those and what people's interpretation are. For example, when we talked about how will we define a community leader, for example, that's one of those things where it's a possible strategy. My idea of a community leader may be different, for example, than the chair's idea of a community leader. So looking at those strategies and, there was a mention of, for example, of commissioners having office hours. What does that look like? What kind of expectation does that put on the members of this commission? Do we want somebody in an office somewhere alone? So all I'm trying to clarify is to make sure that we're all sort of on the same page with, again, our terminology and with the information that we're working on so that we can be effective, so that we can be good collaborators and partners in this process.
No, that's a fair point. I think it's important to remember that a part of this process really means that we've got to come together and talk, right? Because you're right. Your idea of what a community leader is may be different than mine, but we can sit in a room and we can talk about it, and we can come up with something that is going to work, because that may actually be different in different parts of the community, right? It's going to depend, and so that's part of that process. In the end, a big part of how we do this is making sure we're all working together, right? There are going to be, I think folks in some of the community that are not going to want to engage with the police. And so if we go to a neighborhood and have a police event, they may not draw a lot of folks, but if we can partner with someone in that community, in that neighborhood, then maybe we can slowly ease our way in, right? I mean, trust is not, it doesn't get built overnight. It takes time. And so what we want to do is make sure we're leveraging we're pulling levers from everywhere. And that's why it's really important as representatives of the community that we can sort of work with you in order to make some inroads there. That's the goal.
And again, my intention with that question, given the email that we received a few weeks ago and the intent to discuss the draft document that's laid out, that's the strategies, making sure that if we need more information, if we need the additional document to help supplement that discussion, that we have it.
And I want to make sure that I make it clear I'll be available for that as well, because I want to make sure that we can't commit to things that we can't do, right? So there may be parts of that plan that are not feasible now. Maybe a year from now they might be, right? But how do we break that down into a smaller level? When I talk about office hours, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to be in an office, but if you show up to events, you have FaceTime, right? And as long as we're communicating the same message in terms of being able to help build those bonds with the police department, that's what's important. Ultimately, these documents are not done for you to build a relationship with the community. It's for the police department to do it. And unfortunately, there's going to be some bumps in the road in terms of how we do that. But as a group, we'll figure it out.
Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Commissioner Lacy.
Yes. I just have a couple of questions. I attended the city council meeting on last Tuesday, and you gave an awesome presentation. And I noticed what I got from it, and I may have misinterpreted incorrectly, but I heard a lot of the term partial compliance, partial compliance. And I said, okay, well, we are on the right track. But when we got to community engagement, I got kind of lost there because it says that substantial compliance, even though a community liaison officer was appointed, my question is, how can it be substantial compliance when we have a CLO on staff? Well, APD have a CLO on staff. So I was just wondering if you could clarify that for me. Thank you.
So I think it's important to note that a lot of the milestones in the agreement are not about the end, they're about the process, right? So have we made substantial inroads to selecting an officer? Was there a process in place for that and putting someone in place, making sure we have the adequate resources internally to do that? We did. There's already discussions and conversations going on about how we're going to push this forward, but in the interim, the department is still building bridges, right? We still have events that they're going to that they have always done. What we're trying to do is make sure we codify those, right? Because the reality is that, whoever's in the position today may not be here next week for whatever reason, and we need to have some document that someone can pick up and run with it, so we don't go back to reinvent the wheel. So a lot of these things are about processes. I talked about the data collection. It's not that we have to have the numbers. We have to have a process in place for collecting them, right? Are we asking the right questions? Do we have the computer systems and software in order to gather that information? Do we have a way to retrieve it in a way that makes sense? So a lot of these things are about the process, and it's just not going to happen overnight. So it's a good question. To me, substantial compliance means that we're beyond the halfway point, right? And a big part of that was getting the officer in place. And the reality is that while Officer Amiri and Sergeant Fashion do a fantastic job, they cannot carry the load. And this is why this discussion is so important. And the goal is eventually to make sure this permeates its way throughout the organization, right? So the officers that are working in the field, they know that, you know what, it's okay for me to take 10 minutes to stop and talk to somebody, right? I got the time. I'm being supported. This is important, right? These are things that we're being held accountable to. These are some of those metrics, right? That if I want to go places in this organization, these things are important. But we have to build that structure. And so we're making progress. You're welcome.
I don't have any questions, but thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Mitchell?
Just see a lot of due dates in November, so
Quite a few.
gotta be on the ball for all that stuff. So, but thank you for presentation.
You're welcome.
Do police officers use language line?
That's a darn good question. The answer would be yes.
Okay, I was just wondering, more suggestive of, your guys' process.
Yeah, I think what you're going to find is most departments do have some access. I can tell you from my prior experience that some departments will have access for 24 hours a day and others don't. So it just sort of depends on resources. I think
Right.
it depends on your community and those demands, but yeah, it's important.
Thank you. And my other thought that I wrote down is a background I'm going to email. I think I do know a company, a person that does nationwide training on
Oh, really?
discriminatory
Okay,
policing.
we'll talk offline about that. It's important.
Yep.
Thank you.
And I had no other statements or questions. Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any public comment?
No public comment on this item, thank you.
And no further discussion from the commission, right? Cool. Okay, we'll move forward to 4-3, presentation on NOBLE, the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement. Earlier this year, myself, Commissioner Lacey Oha, and Commissioner Alec Wachi were gifted the opportunity to attend the Noble Conference. Would you like to go first, Commissioner?
Sure. I was thinking about that on my way coming here today, if I would have to go first, but I will. It was really a rewarding conference, and I can tell you that it not only will benefit me as a commissioner, but also benefit me in terms of with the faith-based community, and also the nonprofit organization that I have, Love of Life Outreach Ministries. I learned a lot. And one thing I learned is that law enforcement officials, executives, they really have to endure a lot. Not only from the community, but on the job itself. But in terms of the conference itself, I'm trying to look for the notes here. The conference, it was from August, well, the workshops were from August 9th to August 12th. And it benefited me in terms of learning more about how important it is to have community engagement, especially in the climate that we are living in right now. So for example, on Saturday, August 9th, I attended the session on Project Insight. But prior to that, I attended a session, and I can't remember the name, and I searched, but Commissioner Telly, I'm sure you know, but it was with a retired police chief from Ferguson, Missouri. And also, he was a police chief in North Carolina, Apex, North Carolina. So what he did, he gave us some ideals on how we can engage with the community. And I just thought it was very encouraging, very helpful to me in understanding that it's important that we engage with the community, that we engage with people from every walks of life. Then on Sunday, August 10th, I went to the morning church service, and it was very refreshing, enlightening, and it was a good way to get the day started. Then on Monday, I attended Developing Oversight with Community Engagement Collaboration. Then session that I really enjoyed was with a group of law enforcement executives. And let me tell you, there was one chief of police there from UC Berkeley. And, you know, she had made a very great impression. And I made a recommendation that we may want to consider using this individual. And because she gave her story how during the January 6th insurrection, how she was promoted to the chief of police at the US Capitol. And she saw that there was something missing, and what was missing was not only the community engagement, but making sure that everyone is part of the process in terms of policing. There were hardly any women, especially women of color, in the higher positions. So she kind of changed things a little bit in that organization. Then UC Berkeley reached out to her, and now she's a chief of police. She brought her skills from Washington, D.C. over to UC Berkeley, and it's working. And her key focus was building trust with the community. So that was something that I said, wow, I was kind of like, I was so impressed. And not because she was a female chief of police, it was because she had so many skills and talents that I believe that we possibly could benefit from. And that's the end of my report. I have more to say, but I'm not going to take up too much time. But I am very grateful to have attended this conference, and if I can, I would love to go next year if it's possible. Thank you.
Thank you. The conference was great, as Commissioner Lacey Oha mentioned. We did sit into the first one that you mentioned was called Tension or Trust, Navigating Community Police Relations in regards to the community engagement. I reported out on the sessions that I sat in that were most impactful to me, which was the one that I just mentioned, Turning the Tide on Gun Violence, which was a data-driven public health strategy put on by some of Miami's detectives, analysts, and one of their partner community-based orgs, Serving Together, Strengthening Law Enforcement and Community, and Developing Civilian Oversight with Community Engagement in Mind, which was hosted by NACOL. I think some of the key lessons that I brought out of my time at Noble were several points that were highlighted throughout all of the sessions that were mentioned. The ones that I'll speak about today was that we here in Antioch didn't have like the strongest ordinance. Thankfully, we're working on that now with City Council and our consultant, former Chief Addington. But it was highlighted over and over by the NACO staff that a city with a weak ordinanced commission, oversight commission, generally the commissions don't last. And so I'm thankful that the city is taking the steps to strengthen the ordinance. Also, that the history of policing is so important to discuss with community members. There are community members who may have grown up in this area and or other areas where even not too long ago in this city, as we know, the relationship between community and police weren't so great and still today aren't so great. So it was recommended, and I think myself and you, Commissioner, discussed bringing something to the city or some kind of community engagement event that went over what the history of policing in Antioch looked like as a way to be able to empathize potentially with some of community members who may have had a not so great history of working with police in general, whether Antioch or not. And then also community-based policing and resource walks. It was something that was presented on in the Miami-Dade data course and stood out to me, something that I think could be really useful here. It was a partnership between the police department, community-based orgs, their oversights, doing monthly and or quarterly walks throughout neighborhoods, passing out resources, and building relationships. Things that they mentioned during these walks that they would present was the local crime data, again, sharing resources, and then gathering community feedback, especially in the high crime areas. I also did collect the contact information for UMA Futures, who was the company that kind of went over their community-based policing model. They had partnered with an organization, and that organization was really kind of leading the footwork in those community areas and establishing relationship with people who weren't as comfortable working with the police yet. And I'm already working with the police department in the back, as well as some of our commissioners and the chief, to sit down and have a meeting with UMA Futures on the training that they offer. Another point was having an accessible complaint system. Our consultant kind of touched on the hard work that's going on in the background in the Lexipol sessions with the policy, making sure that there aren't as many barriers to having access to the complaint system. And so thankful again that the city of Antioch is already taking steps for that. And then another thing that I just noted that is completely outside of the scope but wanted to share because I thought it was excellent is that they had embedded a data-driven violence prevention model and had tons to do with the way that they use their shot spotter and how their analysts kind of overlaid all of the data from the different mechanisms that their police department was using. And from that system, their crime rate dropped drastically. And for me, bringing that information back, the next steps that I would like to see from the city and from APOC as a whole, in community engagement especially, is to launch those pilot resource walks. We are already in the process of adopting a no barrier complaint system. Definitely to look at what it would take to have a community engagement platform where the history of policing in Antioch could be presented. And just based on some learning obstacles that we went through during the travel, to just continue to refine the travel procedures. And thank you, because when we came back, we did get a presentation on travel. And that is it for me. And because Commissioner Alakwachi is not present, her attachment is here, but we will skip that.
Commissioner Taylor, may I just add that I would like to see, and I didn't make the recommendation, I'm sure that we do have organizations that are discussing this important topic, but I would like to see if it was possible for the Community Engagement Ad Hoc Committee and APD can have some type of event on school to prison pipeline, which is also known now as kindergarten to prison pipeline. Because one of the sessions show that children of color are suspended and removed from school at a higher rate than children from other races. And I know from personal experience that it existed, and it existed over 20 years ago when my older son was in the public school system in San Francisco. And it's still, this is still a problem today. So I think if we were to somehow get a workshop, create a workshop where we all can just sit down and discuss it and talk about it, I believe it would be very beneficial. Thank you.
Thank you. I agree. Is there any public comment?
No public comments on this, thank you.
Thank you. Any discussion from the commissioners? You're welcome. It was very nice. Thank you to the city for sending us. We appreciated it. Okay. We can move on to item 5. Is there any public comment for the public comment section?
No public comments, thank you.
Thank you. And ad hoc committee report outs. For fiscal management, I can just go ahead and do it. It's in my hand, okay? We haven't met in an official capacity. However, we did plan on just grabbing the data, which we did. We received the finalized budget for APD, the city manager's budget, which houses APOC's budget, and then the full scope budget on September 8th. And we are planning to meet in the background to start our review. You want to add anything?
No, we did get the data and want to get a better understanding of the relationship between the report out that police does with city management, so we don't duplicate efforts and streamline it and don't put an extra burden on anybody, but get a good understanding of how dollars are being spent.
We definitely not trying to put y'all to work, extra work. Community trust and engagement.
Who would like to report out? I have it in front of me. Did y'all? Okay. And then just add on anything if I miss anything. So I'll be speaking to the Community Trust and Engagement Ad Hoc, which I sit on with Commissioners Lacey Oha and Kennedy. and we have met several times in the past couple weeks, and we discussed the draft one-year community engagement strategy document, which came from our city manager and our DOJ monitor. The ad hoc committee is anxious to engage with staff and the rest of the commission to discuss these proposals in more detail. In general, we find several great opportunities that have been identified to engage the community. We feel that the creation of a solid, easily understood communications campaign is incredibly important for everyone involved. We acknowledge that there are ongoing efforts in several areas and look forward to those updates. We are also excited and anxious to discuss how we will identify community leaders, whether we will be utilizing the city's existing Council of Teens, and how we can share success stories related to the work of the commission, APD, etc. And we plan to we have met with Sergeant Fanchner and Officer Amiri to discuss progress related to the PSP recommendations, and I believe we'll expand on that at our next meeting. We are also looking forward to a strategic planning retreat to allow broad discussion and input from all members of the commission, APD, et cetera, to chart a successful path forward in 2026. I'll just add that we did meet, I think Commissioner Kidney did touch on this a little earlier. We met, was it last week, with community liaison officers and our monitor, Manjeet Sapal, and we discussed ironing out some of these things in the APD Community Engagement Plan of 2025. We were discussing having a potential hybrid introductory town hall to the commission, how this community engagement and trust plan was going to work for the community, and being mindful that Antioch is a commuter city where a lot of folks can't join in-person meetings, and so we discussed that it would best be a virtual opportunity at first, and then we can do it in person as a build-up to the in-person event. Commissioner Kennedy suggested, something came to her, that a hybrid would be, right? Were you saying like a hybrid meeting would be probably our best solution, where we can do it in person and an online, just to honor some of those folks who are commuting from home and may still want to attend. So it's still in discussion, but we will, circle back at our next meeting if we decide on an actual date for the event or how we're going to do it. So if anyone else wants to add anything, that's all I have.
Thank you.
Oh,
Go ahead.
I would just like to add that we also had agreed that Manjeet will assist with coming up with the message for the event. So that's true, it is ongoing. And also, we went around about whether it should be hybrid or in person. So, and I, have my differences of my own personal view on that. And we really need to focus on in person. I just believe the first event, I think it would be beneficial for us to do it that way. But however, I'm open to hybrid. Everybody's into hybrid now, and getting on Zoom for meetings and everything. But I believe that we truly need to see what we can do to get people involved and interested in what we have to offer. Thank you.
I'll just add that the commission can, I think, begin to anticipate more information coming our way regarding opportunities to attend neighborhood watch meetings or other events that Sergeant Fashner and Officer Amiri are attending. As the point's been made, they can't carry this on their own. I mean, not all by themselves. And, I think that we're seeing a lot of good collaborative effort and energy coming out of all of this. So, more to come.
For policing practices, the notes are not included. So we will have a very robust report out at the next meeting. Is there any public comment?
No public comments at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Any discussion on the ad hoc report outs? All right.
Just as a point of information, the commission readiness ad hoc did meet. Our report didn't make it in, so.
It's here.
Oh, it is in here.
It is.
It wasn't in the packet I picked up this morning.
Yep.
Okay.
We worked on it in the background. Thank you, City. Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, I thought I called it. My bad, go ahead.
So just, there's still a lot happening from the training ad hoc or the commission readiness standpoint. For everybody's awareness, there's going to be a total of 7 sessions that are going to be broken down into 4 2-hour sessions and 3 4-hour sessions. The proposal is that these take place on either Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday evening, starting at 4 or 5 p.m. One of the things that we're also going to be talking a little more about is, given that we have a vacancy on the commission, whether it makes sense to wait until, say, January to begin this training, as opposed to having us go through 2 or 3 sessions and then have somebody come on board that has none of the training. So that'll be something we'll be discussing between now and our October meeting, and we'll come back for further discussion.
Thank you. Sorry, I thought I called it. And then we have 3 minutes each for commissioner report outs. I'll start over here with you, Commissioner Mitchell.
Just looking forward to.
Hold on, sorry. I skipped upcoming future agenda items. Sorry. I still will start with you.
I would look forward to the Readiness Committee report out on finalizing training dates. And I think Commissioner Kennedy made a good point about the vacancy. I mean, we have to come to a decision whether or not.
Are you
we
doing agenda items or your report out?
report out?
Your agenda items. I skipped it, so I went backwards.
No, well, that's what I mean. I'd like to agendize
Okay.
that we figure out whether we're going to move forward with training ahead of another appointment, or if we're going to wait until we have another commissioner on board and play catch-up.
Okay. Commissioner Williams?
I still want to, I always forget what we have in the pipeline already for agenda items, so.
Oh, I want to note, sorry, I'm not sure if y'all seen that I started a running document. It's in SharePoint, so that all commissioners can see the items that are suggested for the agenda, and then we can go back and note what has actually been placed on an agenda, so that the running notes is available for all of us in regards to agenda items.
Okay. I have nothing to. I did. I don't know if I can talk about that.
Is it a future agenda item suggestion?
Yes. Okay,
can talk about
so recently, while I was attending the PSP closeout meeting, I wanted to bring to the commission an event where we would address the issues that happened in the past and how we're moving forward. Not a public accountability event where I wanted to invite some community members, and I see Kevin's looking over at me.
Trying to see where the agenda item is going to come in.
Yeah, okay, so I wanted to discuss that as a commission, what an event would look like if we were doing a public accountability event for moving forward from the sins of our past as a city.
So can that be placed in the community engagement discussion?
Yeah. Oh, your microphone.
I can't understand anything you guys just said.
Oh. As far as like just not hearing or?
He said that he wants to agendize a community discussion around the harms that have been caused in the city of Antioch. I suggested that that be placed under the community engagement discussion that we already all know is going to be agendized.
Right. Thank you.
Commissioner Oha?
Well, going back to the Noble Conference, I would like for community engagement, if possible, to see what we can come up with to invite the chief of police from UC Berkeley to either be a facilitator or do a presentation, because I truly believe that she has a lot to offer. She really does. And if you all get a chance, her bio is on the website, and I think that maybe that will sway some of us to try to push that forward.
Did you by chance get her contact?
No, because there were so many people going to her after. Yeah.
We can get it, though.
Yes,
Sure.
yes, yes. Also, I agree with Commissioner Williams. I think it's time that we see what we can do to come up with some type of acknowledgement of what has happened in the past. This is just not something that just happened 5, 10 years ago, but it had been going on for a very long time before I moved here to Antioch. And I remember as much younger, in the community that I grew up in, we were always told, don't come to Antioch, don't go to Brentwood, don't go to Concord. So now that we are at this point, I believe that it's just the right thing to do right now. Because other cultures have, what they have gone through, the tragedy and trauma, the trauma that they have gone through, they have received an apology. They have been acknowledged. The Japanese, for example, Chinese have been, what they went through has been acknowledged. But here we are, we have a large population of African Americans in the city of Antioch, and many have been traumatized, and I think that now is the time to acknowledge that and to issue an apology. And I agree that with you, Commissioner Taylor, that maybe this is something that the community engagement could spearhead. Yes, thank you.
Commissioner Kennedy?
I'm good.
Okay, for me, I already mentioned the community engagement discussion. You all received an email from me regarding a larger scale discussion on assisting with the movement of the plan, a discussion from the body so that the ad hoc can take it back and move forward with their plans along with the works that they've been doing with our consultant in APD. I also want to have a discussion around the crowd control policy. And I'm not sure if that kind of leans into the First Amendment policy presentation that we were given, but I know that there were recently some incidents in Antioch where larger crowds came to the Sycamore area and wanted to see, like, in the future, what the policy surrounding crowd control looks like. And then I wanted to have a discussion around the creation of a community advisory board, something, again, that will lean towards community engagement, but want to discuss as a body what community leadership, I think that's the term you all brought up several times, and I agree with what the consultant mentioned in regards to community leadership looking different, not only to us as individuals, but to people in community, and then how we can all appeal to those different outlooks of what leadership looks like. And so us suggesting and or discussing who people in the community could possibly be to form that board that the community engagement ad hoc could look like. And I do agree in regards to the acknowledgement to the city. And I wrote commission readiness, but I'm not sure why. I think it was something I wanted to follow up on. So I'll leave it at that for now. Is there any questions about any of the things that I mentioned? All right, cool. So I have noted everything that was brought up here as well as the things that I stated. Is there any public comment?
No public comment, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And now, Commissioner report out. Because I started with you, I'm going to start with you because you kind of started anyway. So,
Don't have a lot. I on the road quite a bit over the last month, and wasn't in town for probably 3 out of the 4 weeks this last month. So we did have a real productive meeting in our ad hoc. I think we made some progress on getting the training lined up and just making that decision on whether or not we wait for another commissioner or not. So that's what I've got.
I don't really have much to report out that I didn't mention in my ad hoc report out already. I did meet with a community member who had recently come to one of our meetings to discuss some grievances that she had experiencing in, with law enforcement. And so we spoke, and I've been in touch with her, trying to really figure out how we can remedy her situations going on. And I don't want to get into detail about too much about what we discussed for her own, just discretion. So that's what I've done as far as outside of commission work. And this fly tonight, oh my goodness, sorry. I will pass it to Commissioner Lacey-Oha.
Thank you, Commissioner Williams. Well, let me start from the most recent event that I attended and I was a part of on Saturday, September 13th. The East County NAACP Youth and Collegiate Council had their 3rd annual Champions for Youth banquet, and our very own Commissioner Devin Williams was one of the awardees. And I just want to say congratulations to you. It was well deserved.
Thank you very much.
And I also was acknowledged as being one of the executive committee members, and I did not expect that. I was there to support my fellow commissioner, but also because I just believe in the mission of the NAACP. Over 100 people attended. We had a large crowd that attended this event. And then last but not least, yes, the food was delicious, and thumbs up to Dixon's Catering. On Saturday, August 30th, in the city of Concord, I attended the Igbo Cultural Festival. At the Tostada Santos Plaza. I know I'm not pronouncing that correctly, but it was all day on Saturday, August 30th, and my family, my children's father is part of that community, so I was at home. It felt like I was at home with all my family members and people I hadn't seen in years. Many dignitaries came out to this event, including our very own mayor. And I was just so proud. I said, yeah, that's my mayor. This is going to be an annual event each year. So I was late getting the information out to everyone, but I will do better next year. The food was great, the music was great, there was many dance performances. And if you know anything about the Igbo culture, they are very family-oriented. And they believe in family, but they also believe in showing empathy and compassion. And they also believe in that it's important that our children get an education in order to better themselves in life. So that's all I did for the last month or so. Then I have other events coming up that I am going to be a part of, one including in the city of San Francisco. Thank you.
I participated in the commission readiness and the community engagement ad hoc meetings, and as already been stated, we've had a few of those. Had an opportunity to join Sergeant Fashner and Officer Amiri at the Mira Vista Hills Neighborhood Watch meeting. Thanks very much for the invitation, and also just interesting to kind of get hear the concerns of that community, much of which, in their case, focuses on traffic on James Donlin. And I thought that the officers handled those questions really well. I attended the Contra Costa County Block Party at the community center, and also had an opportunity to sit in on a meeting with some representatives from Contra Costa County regarding their intentions with the African American Wellness Hub, which they will still be continuing to work toward. And that was also something that was interesting as far as, again, word out to the community and so on. One of the things I was especially excited about in going through the packet, looking at the Noble reports, was the reference to collaboration. I think that is really important, not just with the community, but I think that, we also have a collaboration with the department to fulfill these obligations with the DOJ agreement, to work on the community engagement programs, training, et cetera. And I think that that's going to really take us in a very positive direction. And then also just a shout out to the women in our police department. Friday was Women in Law Enforcement Day. So great to see that we had a strong contingent headed to the Women in Law Enforcement Conference in San Diego, but just shout out to them and the work that they're doing also. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm so sorry, Chair Taylor. She was also present in the meeting that we had with our community member, and I was being selfish, like I did all the work. So she was there too. So I just want to acknowledge her presence there. So thank you again.
And then let me also say that I attended the swearing-in ceremony on Thursday, September 11th. And believe me, I was so happy to be there. Once again, congratulations. I did go around and congratulate many of the families and the parents of one of the officers. And I'm very happy to see that the number of new officers that we have in the city of Antioch. And I made a joke as I was on my way out. We have a lot of tall officers, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing.
The great thing about being a parent is I don't have to show up for like the planned parts of community engagement. My kids kind of just thrust me into community. So during the weekends for the next few months, you can definitely catch me either at Deer Valley or at Antioch High, because those are the schools where my kids play their sports, and I'm a very active mom. I'm almost like a cheerleader too. So that is my outside efforts, although I have been trying to make it to events in the daytime before I become a cheerleader later on. So thank y'all for being present during sports season, and that is it for me. Is there any public comment?
No public comments, thank you.
Thank you. Staff communications?
No staff communication.
Alrighty, our next meeting is October 6, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. at City Hall. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Chair Taylor, may I add something to the agenda for the upcoming future agenda items. This just
I don't
came
think
to
we
my
can go
mind.
backwards.
Oh, we can go back, okay, okay.
Yes. Do I have a motion for adjournment? We don't want to go home?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Kennedy,
Aye.
Commissioner Lacioja,
Aye.
Commissioner Mitchell,
Aye.
Commissioner Eloquashi absent, Vice Chair Williams,
Yes.
Chair Taylor.
Yes.
Motion passes to adjourn 5-0 with Commissioner Eloquashi absent. Thank you.